Hello everyone. 7 people have finally been arrested in the murder of 16-year-old Preston Lord from a Halloween party back in October of 2023. If you haven't watched my breakdown on the case, I definitely recommend going and watching that video first so that this one makes sense. However, as a little refresher, a Halloween party which took place in Queens Creek, Arizona, which was just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, would end up getting out of hand and hundreds of teenagers and young adults would end up showing up at this party. It would end up dispersing, and during the mix of all of this, 16-year-old Preston Lord would be found unresponsive, beaten to the point of having a severe brain injury on 194th Street and Via del Rancho Road. 5 months later, and we finally have arrests. 7 arrests actually, and all of them are 20 years old or younger. And they better prepare themselves for prison because they are all being charged with first-degree murder. So let's just do a rundown of the suspects and their initial charges. 17-year-old Talon Vigil is being charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder. 17-year-old Talon Renner is being charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder. 18-year-old William Owen Hines is also being charged with kidnapping and first-degree murder. 20-year-old Dominic Turner is being charged with kidnapping, first-degree murder, and aggravated robbery. 19-year-old Taylor Sherman is being charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping. 17-year-old Jacob Meisner is being charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and aggravated robbery. And finally, we have 18-year-old Trustin Billy, who is also being charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and aggravated robbery. All 7 suspects are being held on $1 million bails. So there's some serious charges for individuals 20 years old and younger. And as far as I've read at this point in time, all of the minors are being charged as adults. Since in Arizona, anyone 15 years old or younger being charged with a violent felony must be prosecuted as an adult. Now, when it comes to the kidnapping charges, they are being charged with kidnapping because under Arizona law, it states, and I quote, knowingly restraining another person with the intent to hold them for ransom, use them as a shield or hostage, hold them for involuntary servitude, inflict death, physical injury, or a essay offense on them, hold them in aid of the commission of a felony, interfere with government work, take control of a plane, train, ship, or automobile, or make them or someone else believe that they or someone else was in reasonable apprehension of imminent physical injury. End quote. So their kidnapping charges most likely fall within the restraining another person charge. Now let's talk about the aggravated robbery, because the big question is, what would lead 7 people, mainly teens, to attack and beat to death a 16-year-old boy? Well, it's seemingly turning out that this was all over a gold chain that was only worth $10. A worthless gold chain cost Preston Lord his life. According to the current narrative, the group of attackers ended up snatching this gold chain from one of Preston's friends, and when Preston and his friends tried to get this gold chain back, the fight broke out. When this fight started, Preston and his friends attempted to run away. However, the attackers pursued them, grabbed Preston, and I quote, in a matter of seconds beat him and left him lying on the street. End quote. It's also noted, however, that this necklace being stolen may not have been the start of the attack, but was merely the catalyst after a series of events happened before this necklace was stolen. We don't specifically know what those events are currently because police are keeping that very close to the belt. Seems like that's stuff that's going to be coming out in court. However, they did note that the attack most likely lasted only seconds. It was not stationary, saying Preston was beaten as he tried to get away, moving through the crowd of partiers still in the streets. Now, in the first video I covered on this case, we talked a lot about this group called the Gilbert Goons. And it turns out that some of these boys and men that were charged with Preston's murder were part of this gang. William Hines was actually charged in January for being involved in a Gilbert Goons attack on a teenager at a Gilbert house party in November of 2022. He's also accused of being involved in another attack of another teen at a Gilbert In-N-Out in December of 2022. In the In-N-Out case, William's also being accused of attempting to destroy evidence in that attack. Jacob Meisner was also arrested in January for being involved in the Gilbert Goons house party attack in November of 2022. However, he was also allegedly connected with an attack on a minor at a park in Mesa in May of 2023. They were also both already in custody when the charges for Preston were secured. However, Jacob is currently the only one whose mugshot has not been released and whose photo I cannot find online. And I've seen that is because him and the other 17-year-old have not been moved from the juvenile facility yet to the regular prison, and once that happens, then their mugshots will be released. But as I said, they are being charged as adults. Now, of course, Jacob's attorney does not want him being moved to the big boy prison, and he has been trying to convince a judge to keep him in the juvenile facility since he's trying to complete his GED right now. How nice of Jacob to finally try to get his life together and try to be a prominent member of society after being in prison for beating other teenagers and now also being charged with the brutal death of another 16-year-old boy. The only other thing I did find on Jacob was his mother did make this post on Facebook where she was trying to defend him back in November. and this was before he was arrested and charged, especially with Preston's murder. But this all seems to run a lot deeper than just these two boys. I mentioned another 17-year-old named Talon Reed was arrested. And not only was he a football player for the American Leadership Academy in Gilbert, but his home was one of the few in the gated community of White Wing that was searched in connection to Preston's murder, a very prominent, wealthy community. However, crime seems to be a family affair with the Renners, because Talon's brother, 18-year-old Kait Renner, was also arrested in January in connection to the November 2022 house party attack, as well as an attack in a Gilbert parking garage in December of 2022. Which begs the question, is Kait also involved with the Gilbert goons? It may seem so. On top of that, Kait was also arrested on drug charges. Then we have their father, 50-year-old Travis Renner, who has also been arrested on suspicion of drug possession and paraphernalia charges. He's also being accused by a former employee of trying to cover up his son Talon Renner's alleged involvement in Preston's killing. This former employee has come forward to police, as well as in an interview, talking about how Travis allegedly sent Talon to their cabin while his hands healed, and spoke about how they were going to get away with it because they were rich, essentially. It's a very interesting interview, so I'll play that for you now.
I was working as the senior executive assistant for Relentless Media Agency, Relentless CEO, Move Martial Arts, and MX Martial Arts. I was the executive assistant for all four of those companies, even processing payroll for all four of those companies. Shortly after Halloween, I came to the office and was approached by Adam, who brought me into the conference room and presented me with an NDA. He asked me to sign it. He didn't give me much time to review it, and kind of laughed it off. He told me that Travis's son had been involved in an incident at that time, not knowing that Preston had passed away at that moment. And he explained that was involved, and Travis was currently taking to the cabin because he had some injuries on his hand. He just said, review the NDA, no big deal. You know, I just need it. It's only case specific. It has nothing to do with the other companies. You know, please sign. I'll give you a copy afterwards. So I did. I signed it because I could not afford to lose my job at that time.
What was your understanding of how they reacted to it? What did they do?
Immediately said they were not talking. They lawyered up and they were going to cover this up. They made sure to get a lawyer. Adam was told that Travis is more than likely going to have to file bankruptcy because of this case. It's going to break him, and because those two are so tightly wound financially, they are in business together in four different entities, that Adam was going to need to seek an attorney and a bankruptcy attorney to possibly buy Travis's shares, to kind of separate ties between them. And that was what I was told. However, it continued that Adam told me he never had any intention of completely losing Travis as a business partner. He can't financially afford to lose Travis, and he was just going to let the dust settle, words verbatim. He was going to let the dust settle and let Travis back in.
Did they talk to you about the killing of Preston Lord? Or did they talk in front of you? What was the conversation?
It was both. I was talked to about the case, and I was around when the case was talked about. The common theme about it was involved. He hurt his hand because he punched Preston initially, you know, possibly causing cuts and abrasions. And that is when they took town. I found calendar evidence that corroborating this, that all of a sudden Travis was gone. At that time, I was being told by Adam that's where they were at, the cabin, letting hand heal, and I was, weeks go by, and I was always pulled aside to give an update on the case. You know, go back to school and pretend like everything's fine. They would update me, you know, on their case proceedings. They would tell me that only expected to get 9 to 10 months out of this. You know, that's what his attorney is saying, that they have no plans on talking. They're just going to cover it up and then everything will be good.
So there was never any conversation about turning Travis Renner's son in?
Never. Adamantly no. They refused. They talked about how they would never do such a thing. They weren't talking. They said they had plenty of money. They would be able to get away with this, essentially.
When it comes to 19-year-old Taylor Sherman, he's also being accused of attempting to destroy evidence for Preston's attack and trying to plan a cover story. From what I've read, Taylor may have filmed Preston's attack, and in a civil suit, his name was also mentioned for the teen attacked in the In-N-Out in August of 2023. So that's the third suspect in Preston's case who was also involved in the attack of another teen. Now, in the court records for this attack in In-N-Out, it called it an unprovoked, savage beating. The boy's father, Richard Cooner, claimed that his son was, and I quote, threatened on social media, including a picture of a gun pointed at a camera with the message, "Do we understand each other?" After his son told Perry High School about the threats, they got worse, and the suspects, which are all members of the Gilbert Goons, went to his house and threatened him. He was then beaten at In-N-Out and told if he told anyone, he would be killed. End quote. So as you can see, Preston's attack was not an isolated incident. This gang of teens and young adults were actively going around the city and attacking other teenagers and minors. And if they weren't beating these individuals unprovoked within an inch of their life, they were threatening to kill them. They were just doing this for the fun of it seemed. And the fact that it's taken the city and the police this long to shut this group down is outrageous. It's a group of mainly teenagers and very young adults. And the fact that police can't rein this in and it's just this gang of teens going around killing people and injuring people very severely, it's ridiculous. I'm going to play a clip now for you all of Taylor Sherman's latest hearing so that you can hear his defense talk about how he ran away from the scene like the rest of them did.
Good morning, sir. May I have your name and date of birth?
Taylor Sherman, 2004, December 11th.
Thank you very much. All right, can we have appearances from the attorneys appearing today?
John Ewison for the state.
Good morning, Your Honor. Brenda Fesk. I'm here on behalf of the Lord family.
Mr. Sherman today. We are here today on a Superior Court grand jury warrant. You were charged with murder in the first degree, a Class 1 felony, and kidnapping, a Class 2 felony. Before we proceed with release conditions, I will set an arraignment hearing on March 13th at 8:30 a.m. in the downtown Superior Court. Can we have recommendations starting with the victim's attorney?
Good morning again, Your Honor. Preston was a popular student who served on his student council. He was also a three-sport athlete. More important than these factors, Your Honor, he was a son, a brother, a grandson, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend to many. Everyone who knew this young man loved him. We ask that you honor the cash bond requested by the county attorney's office. Your Honor, for months, witnesses in this case were threatened and terrified into silence. Additionally, all of the defendants involved in this case ran after assaulting Preston. Thank you.
Thank you. From the state?
Judge, I just want to echo what they said. This defendant fled from the scene. This defendant was involved in the death of Preston Lord. He was also involved in either the destruction or the attempted destruction of evidence and colluded with others about the potential story. Bond has already been set. It's perfectly given the charges. The victims have spoken. I would ask to fill the Form 4. And if bond is posted, the electronic monitoring house arrest may be posted. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Form 4 is listed on this, so I'll get input from defense counsel and then we'll rule on that. Mr. McPhee?
No objection to sealing that, Your Honor. But as to the release conditions, I understand, and we understand the seriousness of the allegations in the case. I think comparing to other defendants, such as the one that was just given the initial appearance, certainly Mr. Sherman has no criminal history whatsoever. He's 19 years old. He is employed and his family is not wealthy. And so we are asking for a reduced bond of $500,000 secured appearance.
Thank you, Mr. McPhee. I will go ahead and grant the motion to seal the Form 4 at this point in time. Mr. Sherman, I am going to set that arraignment hearing that I already reviewed. That's March 13th at 8:30 a.m. in the downtown Superior Court. I will issue a secured appearance bond in the amount of $1 million today, affirming the request in the grand jury warrant. I will also order pretrial services supervision and electronic monitor to be installed if you do post bond. I'm also ordering that you not return to the scene of the alleged crime, no contact with any alleged victim, complainant, or witness, no contact with any arresting officer.
But Taylor wouldn't be the last of the suspects. 20-year-old Dominic Turner is also being accused of taking evidence from the scene of Preston's attack. But other than that, no one seems to know much about him, so let me know down below if you have more information. Now let's talk about 17-year-old Talon Vigil for a moment here, because in the first video I covered on Preston's case, we talked about how his girlfriend was accusing him of being involved, and she said that immediately after Preston was beaten, Talon climbed onto a car and bragged, and I quote, I knocked that kid out. End quote. Now, Talon was actually all over social media after Preston was murdered, talking about his lack of or his involvement in Preston's murder. And alleged screenshots, such as this one from Snapchat, where he says, and I quote, "Yo, I understand everyone is hurting right now and wants to find the kid that did this, but you got the wrong Talon. The real kid's name is Talon Renner. Please stop accusing me. I was there. I tried to help the kid off the street. Thank you." End quote. So not only is he trying to deflect the heat off himself to the other Talon, he was claiming in that Snapchat that he was actually trying to help Preston and he wasn't involved in the actual attack of Preston. But it seems like the police beg to differ because he's also been arrested for first-degree murder. And, you know, I kind of am believing the police because we also have this alleged screenshot from Snapchat where Talon allegedly says, and I quote, "I hit a kid and this kid fell, hit his head, and then they kicked his head into the ground. Then I got word he died, so I don't know." End quote. So what is it? Did you help the kid or did you punch him? And did he fall and hit his head? Which is it, Talon? And the footage of Talon continues because we also have this video of Talon being arrested.
Start coming back. Start taking small steps backwards. Stop right there. With your right hand, lift the collar of your shirt. So I tell you to stop. Give me a 360. Stop. Start coming back to the sound of my voice. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Keep coming back. Keep going back. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Keep coming. Stop. Get on your knees. Put your hands back.
And this video has gone viral on all of the Gilbert social media groups surrounding this case. Honestly, I'm really glad that police followed this case through and didn't just throw it to the wayside. These boys really thought that they were invincible. They really did. Not only were they continuously attacking other teens throughout the community, they were posting about it on social media and thought that they would just get away with it. So I bet that they were scared shitless when police finally showed up. And I hope it's sinking in that they are most likely going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. And what's even crazier to me is that a lot of these kids come from good families, yet instead of doing something productive with their lives, they decided to be involved with a gang. And a gang that was attacking other teens, which is just, it's crazy to me, especially for the Renner family. They lived in an amazing community. They seemed to have a lot of money, a lot of influence, and Talon Renner even seemed to be a big football star. But on his off time, when he was off the field, he was helping beat teens. Why would you throw all of that away? It's crazy to me. Don't understand what was going through these kids' heads. Now, lastly, we have Trustin Billy. And he honestly seems to be some of the worst of the worst. He seems to have really been involved in this whole gang fight scene. He always seemed to be getting in trouble despite not being even legal to drink yet, because not only is he being accused of being involved in Preston's murder, but he also has an alleged DUI charge from July of 2023. He's also been featured in posts from Snapchat like this one here, where posters say, and I quote, "This is the kid that was mainly stomping his head in. His first name is Trustin. I don't know his last name, but if someone knows him or where he stays or his socials, let me know." End quote. And this seems to be a repost from one of the kids that was at the party that witnessed Preston's attack. And they are claiming that Trustin stomped Preston's head into the ground, which also correlates to the Snapchat where Talon Vigil allegedly says he punched Preston. Preston fell, hit his head, and then he says other kids began to stomp his head into the ground. If Talon Vigil was one of the ones that punched Preston, he fell, and then Trustin Billy began to stomp his head into the ground. Just poor Preston. That's all I have to say is this poor kid was savagely attacked. And as the details come out, it just seems to get worse and worse. Now, this screenshot is actually from a video of Trustin allegedly at the Halloween party that night. And in my opinion, he seems to be acting intoxicated, which it's a Halloween party with a bunch of, reckless teens that seem to don't give a shit about the law. So I'm not surprised, considering as a DUI, that he was at this party drunk. But not only is he drunk in this video, he's asking for a person named Prince. And Prince allegedly is one of these Gilbert Goon members, another one of their friends. So I'm gonna play the video for you now.
Hey, where Prince at? I'm wanting to know where my boy Prince. Oh, my fuck, that's my first time. Hey, I'm with my boy Meatball right here.
Now, considering how busy this party looked, it just shocks me that police showed up to this because neighbors were calling because kids were, throwing up in their lawns, and there were all these teenagers and young adults around, drinking underage, and then police showed up and just left because they said the party looked fine. It's just shocking to me because considering how drunk Trustin looks, allegedly, in my opinion, in this video, and then what would pursue to happen where a chain is stolen and there's all this other stuff going on that night, and then this fight breaks out, and then Preston ends up being murdered. It's a crazy series of events, and police were just like, okay, and left. Now, on top of all of that, Trustin is also allegedly accused of contacting people trying to set up a story of to what happened to Preston. And I also found that he was in court on March 8th, which was just a couple days ago as I'm filming this video. So I'll play that video for you now.
All right. Good morning, sir. May I have your full name and your date of birth, please?
Trustin John Billy, 0708-2005.
So, if that wasn't enough charges revolving around this group of 7, I've also seen numerous other charges linked to this group, but I didn't see any names associated to which charges. So, I'm just going to lay these charges out to you. Keep in mind, it's just in general, slapped on top of everything I already talked about. So, some of these charges include disorderly conduct related to fireworks, criminal damage for doing donuts with farm equipment in a field, an aggravated assault that wasn't reported until January of 2024, arrested as a minor for a fight over a girl, arrested as a minor for driving recklessly in a dirt lot, being caught twice with tobacco at school, shoplifting, riding a dirt bike in someone's front yard, one incident from 2022 where one of the suspects was the driver of a car where fireworks were thrown from it, and then there's an endless number of run-ins with the Gilbert police as well on top of all of that. So as you can see, these kids were troublemakers. They were the definition of troubled teens, it seems. I think what we can learn from all of this information is that this wasn't just an isolated incident. This wasn't just an accidental, a little fight broke out, a punch was thrown, he was hit in the wrong spot, and he tragically died, which would be tragic either way. But stuff like that does happen where someone may, be pushed or tripped or something, they fall, hit their head in a certain spot, and they die from it. It wasn't just something like that. This was not an isolated incident. These teens and young adults were actively causing problems in the area. This is a reoccurring problem with the Gilbert Goons and these young adults in the area. We've already talked about numerous other assaults happening at a parking lot, in and out. I think there was in parks. If you Google the Gilbert Goon attacks, there are endless results that pop up. It's ridiculous. As you can see, they were, causing disturbances, shooting fireworks at cars. A lot of these kids also revolved around the dirt biking scene in the area as well, and like motocross scene. And as you can see, they were, doing donuts in front yards, and it just seemed to be escalating and escalating and escalating. And now we have a kid that died. But police have said that these 7 arrests may just be the beginning. So could there be more arrests in the future? It's possible. Now that we know a little bit more about our 7 suspects that have been arrested in Preston's murder, I want to go down into the comments section with you all and chat about this. I want to know how you're all feeling. I want to know if you have any more information on these individuals, or do you know if there are any other individuals out there that still need to be arrested? Is there anyone that police haven't named yet? So let's chat about all of this down below. I'm again so glad that police are actually taking this case seriously, because we see so many of these cases involving teens dying, especially at parties where nothing really seems to happen. And I'm not saying that the other cases aren't serious, but this one is especially serious because there have been so many other attacks that thankfully did not result in those kids dying, but they could have as well. It needs to stop. So let's chat about this down below. As more information comes out, I will try to keep you all updated. I'm pretty sure there is a court date possibly happening tomorrow as I'm filming this video, but I wanted to get this stuff out for you now. So let's chat about what we do now at the moment. My heart's with Preston's family. I am so glad that they are finally getting answers. And as always, I hope you all stay safe out there, lock your windows and doors, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.